For some time now I've been curious to know exactly how much my vehicles weigh. Never had them on the weighbridge, which is of course the normal way of weighing something as heavy as a vehicle. I've got 3 cars here, one of which is my son's, but anyway, whatever. I've got the Stylus, which you've probably seen, the Dutton, and of course the Gilbern, which is currently diagonally in the garage. I've also got the engine crane, and crucially I have this electronic scale, which was a fairly cheap thing from eBay. The electronic scale, of course, this is limited to 500 kilos, so you certainly couldn't lift a whole car with it. You might be able to lift half a car, but in fact I went with weighing a quarter of a car by suspending the thing from the engine crane using the traditional piece of seatbelt webbing, and crucial to the exercise to avoid destroying bodywork, because of course the bodywork comes out further than the wheel. A large piece of log, and to be able to loop the belt through the wheel rather like that. And that was the only brainwave really required to attach the lifting arm and the scale to the wheel. Lift a quarter of the car at a time, add the 4 weights together, and a reasonably accurate measurement of the weight in each corner should arrive. You can probably tell I've filmed this slightly out of order. Alter the angle slightly. You can probably tell I've filmed this out of order. Different weather. But this is important. So this electronic scale, I think they're used in shipping departments for weighing pallets or goods to be shipped by air and what have you. They're not designed for motorsport or so on, but pretty good. I think it was a 35 quid, or I don't know exactly, but the crucial thing about this method is that by hoisting the wheel from the wheel itself just off the ground, you're hardly altering the stance of the car at all. Maybe the squish of the tyre, that's the only thing that moves. So while I won't claim it's as accurate as a proper corner weight scale, it's cheap enough, and in combination with an engine crane you can get the tyre just off the ground and check to see if it's actually off the ground using a piece of welding wire. That's what I did, or a piece of paper maybe. So it's literally just off the ground, and by adding the 4 corner weights together, of course you get that entire car, probably to within a couple of kilos I would imagine. So there we are. One thing I did notice is that the hydraulic crane tends to droop slightly if you're not careful, and you end up with the tyre touching the ground and you didn't notice. So it's important to keep it, make sure it really is off the ground. So yeah, good enough for a kind of academic exercise, if you like. One thing that is very crucial is to put something in there to prevent the strap from damaging the bodywork. And the other thing that is important to make sure that the wheel isn't going to suddenly flip round because you've attached at the bottom, for example, then it will suddenly go as it leaves the ground. So that's important. It needs to be attached at the top, and you may have noticed I've grabbed 2 spokes on this 4-spoke wheel, so effectively it's attached to just above the hub centre, so that's just enough to keep it up without making the strap come too close to the top of the wheel, so there's no room to put the block in. So that was my methodology anyway, and as I say, good enough for, I think, a little bit of academic experimentation. Right. Okay, 166. Right, now the last side, last corner. Where's my piece of wire? 160. Right, next then. $169. Yeah, 169. Next. Okay, 152. 152. And we have 176. 176. Yep. And finally, 168. Last corner, 168. So when I weighed the car, actually yesterday, I forgot to have a couple of camping chairs and an umbrella. Let's not worry about the umbrella, but how much these things weigh? We'll find out in a sec. So how much does it weigh? Yeah, 2.7 kilograms, 2.8 kilograms. There's two of these, of course, so that'd be 5 and a bit, maybe 5.5 kilograms with the umbrella. So we can lop a little bit of weight off the Stylus. I don't have any similar amount to remove from the Dutton or the Gilbern, so there we are. Right, same process. $241. It's heavier. Okay, so that's 240 kilos on that side. And that is 250. Well, I'm surprised actually. 10 kilos heavier at the back. Last one, 245. A block of wood, very important if you want to avoid damaging bodywork. So my weight measuring experiments I found a little bit surprising, with all the cars being a little bit heavier than I expected. I should mention, of course, that the Dutton down here and indeed the Stylus over there are both wet, if you like, so they've got things like fuel, oil, water included, which the Gilbern certainly hasn't. So in comparing with data sheets and specs you might have read elsewhere, they may not be wet figures, so there may be a bit of an element of a I don't know what a tank of fuel weighs, maybe 30 kilograms. That certainly could have a bearing on it, but nevertheless I was a bit surprised. So we had the Stylus coming in at about 650, the Dutton coming in at about 700, and the Gilbern coming in at about a tonne. So from an academic perspective, that's kind of interesting. The other thing that was interesting is the fact that the Dutton here was quite noticeably out of balance between its front wheels, so the corner weights are not quite right. I need to obviously adjust the coilover platforms in here to put a bit more weight on one side. I forget which side now, to be fair. The Stylus perhaps wasn't as in balance as I might have hoped either. Not as bad. But yeah, coilovers again, so that can be adjusted. But perhaps most surprising of all is the fact that the Gilbern is not only quite well in balance left to right, but also quite well in balance front to back. Now, this is an Invader Mark II, which has specially made Gilbern suspension, and they seem to have done a pretty good job of it. And it's also a reflection, of course, of the engine and gearbox combo that I've got in the car, which is probably certainly differently weight distributed. The engine itself is probably lighter. The gearbox is probably more is probably heavier. So, while it's worth noticing that the battery is in the boot. The battery is in fact in the boot, with an eye on keeping the weight towards the back. It's possible that I could actually change that, because it would be simpler to have it in the front, and there is space for it in the front as well. So yeah, it's been a pretty interesting little exercise.